Employees arrive at work just in time to leave.
We were evacuated. I was in the IDS tower.
First, I think, it's Minneapolis. The IDS is not nationally known. I really doubted it would be a target, but then that glimmer of, that thought of, oh my gosh, you don't want to, your life is worth more than just second guessing.
Reality sets in. Thousands make a break from the metro. It's the evening rush at 10 a.m.
I don't want to take the risk, so they said we could go home, so I took them up on the offer.
The mood's crazy. I mean, we have people in our offices that are crying and, hoping the best for everybody. We don't know what to do. Everyone just wants to go home and call their families, and it's really emotional.
Those not going home are on the corner, voicing concern.
And I don't want to start crying, so no, it's very sad.
It scares living daylights out of you. It's horrible. Just horrible. I have just really a horrible feeling inside.
Julie Frichelle's daughter's school is right next to the federal building. Julie wasn't taking any chances.
I think it's pretty sad because half of New York lived with smoke, and we watched that on the TV at our school.
Young or old, what's happening to our country today hurts.
It's like depression. It's like the worst feeling. It's like a member of the family has died, really.
Now, some people we spoke with actually refused to go home from their offices today. They wanted to send a message back to those terrorists, letting them know they are not in control. But behind that message, you can bet those people are mourning. Minnesotans we spoke with hope the country pulls together instead of letting it tear us apart.
Thank you. Amelia.
Well, we're going to go to the governor right now, who is holding a press conference. Let's hear what he has to say.
And in our lifetime, it's a time when we need to gather all our strength, brace ourselves for this continuing saga. I want people to understand that it's not over yet. We don't know if it's over yet, and we need to be continually prepared. It's time when we should put aside the less important aspects of our lives and show our complete support for our democracy and our democratic leaders. To President Bush, I pledge support and complete confidence from the state of Minnesota and any support that we can offer. To the people of America who are hurt and have lost loved ones and family, Terry and I offer our most sincere condolences. On behalf of the people of Minnesota, I offer our prayers. And be assured that the United States of America will overcome this day. We've did it before, we will do it again. Thank you. Commissioner Weaver.
Thank you, Governor. First of all, I want to thank the citizens of Minnesota for their efforts in trying to go about business as usual today. This is a difficult, frightening time, but again, we ask that Minnesotans remain calm. There remains absolutely no indication through all our reports today that there's any threat to any facility or people in Minnesota. Minnesota is not in a state of emergency. We have opened the Emergency Operations Center, and we'll keep that operation open for the next 48 hours throughout tonight and throughout tomorrow night to make sure that people have good information fast and that it's accurate. I want to be clear that citizens should continue to use the 911 system for personal emergencies, but to avoid using that system for emergencies related to any kind of terrorist activity. Emergency Operations Center operators will provide general information. That's the 24-hour hotline that's been discussed. That's going to remain open and throughout till 11 o'clock tonight, beginning up again tomorrow at 7 a.m. We did confirm there was a bomb threat this morning made to the Veterans Hospital. Earlier today, we confirmed that also was a hoax. The hospital was evacuated, was swept, was clear, and there was no bomb found. There have been no other threats to Minnesotans' safety. And again, I want to emphasize there's no reason to believe that there's any threat to any site in Minnesota or any Minnesotans. In an attempt to maintain a sense of normalcy today, Governor Ventura ensured that the schools were kept open. That's going to.
That's Charlie Weaver, the Commissioner of Public Safety. The governor said that Americans will overcome this day as they have overcome other days like this in the past. For the first time in history, all planes across the country are grounded. One of the planes that crashed into the World Trade Center was an American Airlines flight. The other is believed to be a United Airlines flight. Northwest Airlines called us early today and said that none of its planes were involved. Nelson Garcia is standing by now at the International Airport where thousands of travelers are stranded. Nelson?
Well, this type of shutdown is unprecedented. It will be the longest shutdown in the history of the Minneapolis-St. Paul Airport, and I can tell you that security out here is airtight. It's all a part of what the FAA calls Operation Ground Stop, and that means that all flights are on hold till at least 11 a.m. tomorrow morning. There are so many stranded passengers, in fact, that all of the hotels in this area are booked up. Now, most of those people were already on the ground, but for those in the air, that was some of the scariest moments. For more than 1,000 passengers, pilots delivered a chilling in-flight message.
He said they've been instructed to get all planes down, and it sounded, you could tell everyone was very concerned.
I thought it was strange. I thought actually that maybe a space shuttle had an emergency landing, or one of the satellites went down or something like that.
Well, the first thing you think is that they might not be telling you something and there's something wrong with the aircraft.
6 flights in all were diverted here, including 3 Korean airplanes headed for Chicago. The airport is now trying to find accommodations for those 800 passengers. Once on the ground, many people were shocked to see the tragedy.
It's hard to not have tears. I mean, it's just a terrible thing.
I knew the first thing I did when I got here was I called home crying.
It was total incredible news. I mean, who'd ever think that such a horrible thing would happen? So, of course, I was a bit scared at first, but...
How did this happen? Where is it going to go? What's next?
Hundreds of outgoing and connecting flights were canceled as well.
My flight has been canceled. My daughter's supposed to leave tomorrow morning for Hawaii, and I don't really want to get back on a plane, and I don't want her getting on a plane tomorrow morning either.
K-9 patrols are sniffing for bombs. The planes have also been searched for explosives.
We've gone to increased emergency alert. Our police officers are on 12-hour shifts, and we'll have an increased visible presence in front of the terminal building, in the main terminal building here.
That's comforting for those hoping to fly out tomorrow.
I think it'll be safe at that time because I feel that the terrorists will probably want to make one day of it.
I'm just glad I'm on the ground, honestly. We're not going to fly back. We're going to find a way on wheels.
The airport held a briefing just a few minutes ago. We now know that actually it was 6 international flights that were diverted here and an unknown number of domestic flights. Now, if you have a ticket on Northwest Airlines booked for travel from today through Friday, you can either change that flight or get a full refund without penalty. If it's booked for Saturday or beyond, however, regular rules apply and you may face a penalty if you want to change it or if you want a refund. Again, flights on all airlines are on hold till at least 11 a.m. tomorrow. If you are trying to fly out, you're advised to contact the airline first to find out if that flight will in fact take place. And if you are headed over here, you're asked to come over 2 hours early because of the tighter security measures. Reporting live at the airport, I'm Nelson Garcia.
The Mall of America, the most popular tourist destination in the state, didn't even open today. The traffic control sign over 35W just south of downtown Minneapolis announced the closing this afternoon. And that's where Noelle Walker joins us.
Amelia, I am in an empty parking lot. The parking lots are empty, the stores are closed, the Mall of America is shut down for the entire day. Now, the head office says it is for the safety of the people who come here every day and out of respect for today's victims.
I am a little rattled. This is kind of scary.
The Mall of America is hundreds of miles from the chaos and debris.
I just told to come up here and secure the door.
I'm trying to see if I can go home or what.
But the impact of today's suspected terrorist attacks hits close to home.
Once the Second World Trade Building collapsed, then they said it was closed and told us to go immediately.
The Mall of America closed before it opened today. Security evacuated employees at 9:30 this morning and told shoppers to go home.
It's very unnerving, I think, to realize that our country is, in this situation. It's very vulnerable.
I guess I'm really saddened that maybe we haven't woken up to some of this vulnerability before.
Barricades block parking ramps, and police and security officers are on heightened alert.
This, again, is a precautionary step. We have no reason to believe that we're a target. We've received no threats. But again, the safety of our guests is our top priority.
On average, 100,000 people visit the Mall of America each day. 12,000 people work here. The reason for concern is in the name.
It's not a political building, but it's an American building.
Again, the Mall of America, everything in it, from Camp Snoopy to shops to restaurants, closed for the rest of the day. They do plan to reopen tomorrow morning. Live at the Mall of America, I'm Noelle Walker.
And the IDS tower in downtown Minneapolis decided to play it safe today and close down.
We emphasize, however, that there have been no threats directed at the IDS Center.
And everyone evacuated the 51-story building this morning. A spokesperson said the IDS shut down because it is such a recognized building. By late afternoon, all federal buildings in the Twin Cities and all across the country were closed down. Many employees say they were concerned about their safety because federal buildings can be such high-profile targets.
And you can see we have extra guards out front, and so I guess I feel a little better knowing that they're doing things.
Also, for security reasons, the Federal Reserve added additional security to its armored truck convoys that carry money on a daily basis.
Schools around the state took extra precautions today. Some closed, but most stayed open, including the Interdistrict School in downtown Minneapolis, where WCCO's Darcy Polland went today.
I'm thinking it's like a regular day at school.
This was anything but a regular day here at the Interdistrict Downtown School in Minneapolis.
It came as a surprise to me because, I'm like, no, this can't be happening.
Older students watched the horrors in New York and Washington, D.C. unfold on TV.
When I saw the buildings, I came in when I saw the buildings with a big hole in the top, and this, I was just thinking, like, how many people's in that building, everything that's going on. I'm thinking it's a dream. Like, I'm not really seeing this.
Meantime, school staff was taking precautions to keep the students safe.
For the time being, we're going to stay put, and we're going to have our kids in this school. We can't send kids home to homes that don't have parents in them. It just doesn't work that way.
Doors were double-checked to make sure they remained locked, and administrators kept in close contact with police for any special instructions.
And I think it's important for students, parents, and everybody else to see that. There's no panicking.
Even so, parents stopped by throughout the day, some to take their children home, others...
Since I work closest downtown, I thought I'd stop in and just check on the children.
While classes continued, students spent the day trying to grasp what happened.
I was really confused. I didn't know what to think. I don't know. After a while, it kind of hit me, and it hurt.
The school serves 10 different school districts, and arrangements are in place to evacuate students to one of the suburban schools if the need arises.
We want to bring you one more piece of breaking news on this story that continues to develop. Explosions have been seen in Afghanistan's capital of Kabul. Take a look at some pictures. These are from CNN. The video shows flaring bursts of light and occasionally flame. Afghanistan is the country where suspected terrorist mastermind Osama bin Laden is being sheltered. Earlier today, the country's hardline Taliban rulers rejected suggestions that bin Laden was responsible for terror attacks in New York and Washington, although he is considered now by at least 2 government sources the chief suspect in today's actions. The Air National Guard went on its highest state of alert today, sealing up its base near the airport. Cement barricades blocked the gate today, and security personnel searched all cars for bombs. Air Guardsmen with M16s patrolled the fence line near the crosstown highway. The base went to ThreatCon Delta this afternoon. That is the highest of 4 levels of security. While the base is on high alert, no guardsmen have been called up to duty. President Bush vowed today to hunt down and punish the people responsible for this attack, but whether that mission will be left to the military or the legal system is still to be determined. This afternoon, I sat down with General Doyle Larson, U.S. Air Force retired general, to talk about what needs to happen to protect ourselves against this kind of attack in the future.
It's very difficult to defend against terrorism. But to me, the worst thing we ever did in the middle 70s was to reduce dramatically the number of agents that we have working the bad guys overseas. We cut it practically in half. And the idea by the Director of Central Intelligence, Admiral Turner, and then in those days was we can do everything from satellite. We can take pictures of them electronically. We can monitor everything we're doing. But imagery won't go through bricks and mortar. And certainly electronics won't tell you what the man is planning, what's going through his gray matter. And that has to come from human intelligence. And we have just cut down drastically. That's the first line of defense.
As you can imagine, the phones are ringing off the hook at the Office of Emergency Management, and Alan Cox joins us now with details.
Within minutes of hearing news reports of the attacks on the East Coast, the governor ordered the lights turned on here, the Emergency Operations Center in downtown St. Paul. This is the nerve center for dealing with the risk of terrorism in Minnesota.
For being here. It's really important in all our communications today that we re-emphasize the importance of staying calm.
These are the people who are paid to expect the worst. 70 state personnel from every major agency gathered in the basement of a St. Paul office building, last activated for springtime floods.
They're going under the assumption that it's not over.
223. Emergency Information Center, can I help you?
Everything should be secure at this time.
20 volunteers staff a state hotline trying to keep the public from tying up 911 operators. Other emergency staffers warn Twin Cities hospitals to be prepared in case they get burn victims from the east. The National Guard is on alert but not called up. State personnel practiced the drill for responding to a terrorism attack just 2 weeks ago. They emphasized this show of force is not because they have information that Minnesota is a target.
We're going to make sure information is accurate and that everyone gets it. So we're connected to all the chiefs and sheriffs, we're connected with state agencies to make sure there's a consistent message, and that is there's no indication of any threat to Minnesota, and let's not give in to the terrorists.
The state has a terrorism response plan that was updated at the beginning of this year. It warns that the risk of terrorism has been increasing in Minnesota. We'll have details of that report and of that assumed risk coming up tonight at 10 o'clock. For now, this operations center is staying open at least through 7 a.m. and possibly beyond that, and the state's hotline for people with concerns will stay open through that time too. Reporting live at the Minnesota Emergency Operations Center, I'm Alan Cox.
And cities across the country immediately went on high alert as word of the attack spread. Minneapolis coordinated police from around the city and set the security plan in place from City Hall. Caroline Lowe has more.
No one can remember a sight like this. Minneapolis officers standing guard all day on the steps here at City Hall. The entrance across from the federal building was the only one open today, as the city tried to go about its business as usual. But anyone who wanted to go inside had purses and packages checked by police, and every van or truck making a delivery was also inspected. Inside City Hall, public safety officials huddled, communicating with other agencies, mapping out emergency plans, many developed after the Oklahoma City bombing.
Everyone is at a high state of alert and awareness, and we are all in communications with the appropriate law enforcement organizations so that we can make smart decisions.
Hennepin County deputies were also part of the beefed-up law enforcement visibility, standing by outside the government center and the jail. Everyone here was on edge, but city officials urged residents to remain calm.
For right now, what we want to do is protect the citizens of our community. We want to encourage everyone to act responsibly and calmly, and do not take any actions against anyone into their own hands.
It is a time when many people pray. President Bush has asked us to do just that. A lot of us do that to seek answers. People from all faiths are gathering at the Basilica. That's where Rick Fuentes joins us now. Rick? Rick, do you hear me?
Well, today is the day many people are turning to prayer for answers. In about an hour, a multi-denominational service will begin at St. Mary's Basilica. Now, earlier today at the University of Minnesota, students of many faiths gathered to pray, each in their own way.
Please join me in reflective silence.
With 45,000 students, it's easy to forget many at the U are visitors here. Some from New York, others have their hearts there. Neuroscience major Taki Khaled hasn't heard from his two uncles.
At least one for sure that works in the World Trade Center. We haven't heard anything about it.
We pray for the victims of violence. We pray for the perpetrators of violence.
For those, the U's Interfaith Campus Coalition said prayers in the languages of many faiths. From Hebrew to Baha'i.
Adversities are incapable of estranging them from thy cause.
It shows that all people of faith are affected by something like this. And
Senior Brent Coffer just finished an internship in New York.
It won't sink in until I go back to New York. fly into JFK and not see the World Trade Center, because that's one of the first things I look for.
The U's President Mark Yudoff's own family was in New York. He says they are fine.
For right now, I think we all need a time out from our regular activities.
The U's Twin City campus canceled classes as of noon. Yudoff says students need time to heal, and counseling services will be available.
We pray that we might know a day when violence will be no more.
Now, about a dozen people are here at St. Mary's. Staff here say that people have been coming in all day looking for some sort of answers to what has happened today. Everyone is welcome to the 6 o'clock service, which will be administered by Father Gillespie and by Rabbi Zimmerman. Reporting live in downtown Minneapolis, I'm Rick Fuentes.
The people of America responded almost as quickly as rescue personnel did. In New York, the word went out for emergency blood donations, and by the thousands, New Yorkers turned out, forming long lines in response to the pictures of devastation that they saw on TV. Well, Minnesotans heard the plea from half a country away, and Dennis Doda has that story.
Amelia, historically, folks in the Midwest are the most generous in the nation when it comes to blood donations. Now, if, after today's heartbreaking tragedy, you need some reassurance, people do still care for one another, care for total strangers, you could find that reassurance at our local blood banks.
Response here has been overwhelming.
At the Memorial Blood Center of Minnesota in Minneapolis, the line to give snaked out into the parking lot. From a jam-packed waiting room where the wait exceeded 2 hours.
I was amazed when I came in and when I was waiting here at the number of people in the waiting room. And I really felt so proud of people for being here and for doing this.
I was sitting at home watching the news all morning, just feeling kind of helpless. I couldn't watch the news anymore.
At this particular blood donation center, they normally see 75 to 100 blood donors in a day. Well, this is not a normal day, and conservatively, they will see 10 times that.
Just felt very sad, and I'm glad that I can do something, if anything, to help some people out.
Every bed was full, every technician engaged, with lab workers sorting and processing as quickly as possible, then shuttling the bounty of this heartfelt response to tragedy off to overflow coolers. There is no doubt, say blood center directors, the donors' precious gifts will be needed on the East Coast for weeks to come.
The New York Blood Center has probably met most of their needs to this point, but they won't be able to continue that. So we're going to need blood in the coming days and weeks.
Jamori Emma just moved here from New York City. She and her husband Steve found a blood center through the phone book, then rolled up their sleeves knowing, but for the grace of God, they or their loved ones could have been victims.
I feel great.
Well, anyone wanting to give would be wise to call and make an appointment with your neighborhood blood center. In fact, you're being urged to call first. In the Metro, you can call the Red Cross at 651-291-4607. Outstate, you can call 1-800-GIVE-LIFE. You can also reach the Memorial Blood Centers of Minnesota at 612-871-3300. By the way, Memorial Blood Centers usually close at 4. They're opening their hours and doors until 9 o'clock tonight and tomorrow night. And one other way you can help out is to donate money to the American Red Cross. And we've set up a phone bank for you to make your donations or get information about donating. And the toll-free number there, 877-223-9226. You can also call 612-330-2764 to make the charge donation right over the phone. These volunteers will be on hand at Channel 4 all through the evening. Amelia, back to you.
Thanks, Dennis. Governor is comparing the attack to Pearl Harbor, and when the number of casualties are in, it could be much worse. Pat Kessler joins us now with more reaction from the governor.
Amelia, just during the last several minutes, the governor and Mrs. Ventura offered their condolences to the victims of terrorism in New York, in Washington, and elsewhere. The governor pledged his full support to President Bush. Now, around the state, though, he is saying that this is business as usual. He did activate almost immediately this morning the Emergency Operations Center, which is just behind me. They are monitoring here any possible threats against the people of Minnesota, although they state very clearly there have been no credible threats. Nothing is in the offing right now, but should something happen, this Emergency Operations Center is prepared to deal with it. Today, government business as usual. The schools remained open, roads were open, and state offices remained open. Governor Ventura asked state employees to stay at their desks and stay on duty unless they were told to go home. The governor did, in fact, compare this to Pearl Harbor. The difference, he said, we don't know who the enemy is this time. Reporting live from the Emergency Operations Center in St. Paul, I'm Pat Kessler.
As the investigation into the terrorist attacks develop, one of the focuses will be on what air traffic controllers in New York saw on their radar screens. A Minnesota air traffic controller we spoke with in Farmington says control crews may have known that the two hijacked airliners were headed toward the World Trade Center, but went on to say the folks were just helpless to do anything to stop the impending crashes.
If the transponder was operational, and depending on what was going on in the cockpit of the aircraft, the pilot can change to a hijack mode. The transponder will squawk hijack, and the controller will immediately recognize that the plane is in a hijack situation. I can only speculate as to the as to what happened after that with the different calls that were made. I can't even imagine the trauma that the potential trauma that the controller is going through right now. A feeling of helplessness, disbelief, horror. Those would probably be the three adjectives that I would use. It's just sadness.
Former Vice President of the United States, Walter Mondale, is describing the attacks as stunning. When we asked him to compare this day to any day in American history, he said it is like Pearl Harbor.
This is the equivalent of war today. Totally a surprise. But in terms of an internal attack by terrorists, I don't think there's a thing that remotely compares to it in the United States.
Response from the international community was quick, condemning the acts of terrorism as cowardly. There was sporadic celebration by Palestinians in the West Bank. However, a spokesperson for the Islamic Jihad said, quote, "We are against the killings of citizens." CNN is reporting that there is a strong link to the terrorist Osama bin Laden, but in an earlier statement, the Taliban government of Afghanistan denied responsibility. From the French government, the attacks are monstrous. From Lebanon, we're shocked. We send our condolences to the United States. We heard from other world leaders, including Yasser Arafat and British Prime Minister Tony Blair.
First of all, I am offering my condolences, the condolences of the Palestinian people to the American President, President Bush, to his government, to the American people for this terrible act.
I'm afraid we can only imagine the terror and the carnage there, and the many, many innocent people that will have lost their lives.
Once again, we see terrorism, we see terrorists, people who don't believe in democracy, people who believe that with the destruction of buildings, with the murder of people, they can somehow achieve a political purpose. They can destroy buildings, they can kill people, and we will be saddened by this tragedy, but they will never be allowed to kill the spirit of democracy.
Because of the events of today, there are a number of cancellations we'd like to tell you about. First of all, Major League Baseball has postponed all games for today. So has Minor League Baseball and Major League Soccer. PGA has canceled all Thursday rounds. And here in Minnesota, author Salman Rushdie has canceled an appearance in St. Paul. He was scheduled to speak tonight at the Fitzgerald Theater. We could not get to the Twin Cities Hormel Foods. It has postponed this weekend's grand opening of the Spam Museum. Hormel plans to donate products to the disaster relief organizations that work in New York to help those affected by the attacks.
We're going to get a quick check on the weather from meteorologist Mike Fairborn, who's up on the roof. Mike?
Not a lot of focus on the weather today, of course, but we would like to give you a quick forecast. First of all, we did hit 82 degrees here in the Twin Cities today, a little bit of summer returning here for us, and it looks like it's going to be short-lived because by tomorrow we're going to drop down to around 72 degrees for a high. And the extended outlook, we're going to continue cooler temperatures on into the weekend. It looks like we're going to stay dry at least until Saturday when we have a chance of some sprinkles. So that's kind of what's been going on and what's going on over the next few days. Back to you guys.
All right. Thank you, Mike.
All right. Here's a recap on the attack on America as it is being called by CBS News. Terrorists crashed 2 planes into the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center. A jetliner slammed into the Pentagon. A 4th plane then, for some reason, we do not know why, crashed just outside of Pittsburgh in a field. Thousands of people on board the planes inside the buildings. The number killed in these plane crashes could be as high as 700. U.S. officials are reporting now that they believe that they have certain information that Osama bin Laden is behind the attacks. Now, Osama bin Laden, if you're not familiar with that name, but you ought to be by this time, was also accused in a series of attacks, including the bombing of the U.S. embassies in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, and also in Nairobi, Kenya. Those are the 2 most recent attacks, and he is being protected by the Taliban government in Afghanistan right now. President Bush is at the Strategic Air Command headquarters in Omaha, Nebraska. He will be addressing the nation tonight. We have late word that he has left Offutt Air Force Base in Nebraska, that he is flying, we believe, headed to the White House for tonight's address.
And, you know, this has really been a very emotional day for us who cover the news and for you, the viewers.
And we want to say goodbye to you, but we want to leave you with these sights and sounds which have been seared into your memory.
Oh, my God, there it goes!
WCCO News, which will be part of our continuing coverage of the attack on America. Sandy, that was just excellent.